Hello. FIFA International Match 2025, results last night. Barbados beat Bonaire 3-2, Cuba beat St. Lucia 3-0, Dominica lost to St. Martin 1-2, Bahamas lost to Anguilla 1-2, Antigua and Barbuda draw with Aruba 0-0, St. Kitts and Nevis draw with St. Martin 0-0, Cayman Islands lost to British Virgin Islands 1-2, Dominican Republic beat St. Vincent and the Grenadines 2-0, Thailand beat Singapore 3-2, Hong Kong draw with Cambodia 1-1, Bangladesh draw with Nepal 2-2, Algeria beat Zimbabwe 3-1, Czech Republic beat San Marino 1-0, Iran draw with Cape Verde 0-0, Lithuania draw with Israel 0-0, North Macedonia draw with Latvia 0-0, Japan beat Ghana 2-0, South Korea beat Bolivia 2-0, Burkina Faso beat Niger 3-2, Comoros beat Namibia 1-0, Oman beat Sudan 2-0, Kenya lost to Equatorial Guinea 0-1, Angola lost to Argentina 0-2, Saudi Arabia beat Ivory Coast 1-0, Uzbekistan beat Egypt 2-0, Tunisia beat Jordan 3-2, Morocco beat Mozambique 1-0, Grenada beat US Virgin Islands 4-1, Venezuela beat Australia 1-0. November 15th 11 a.m. UTC plus or minus 0, Libya vs Mauritania, 5 p.m., South Africa vs Zambia, 6 p.m., Lesotho vs Malawi, 8 p.m., Brazil vs Senegal, Kuwait vs Tanzania, November 15th 5 p.m. UTC plus or minus 0, Uganda vs Chad, 8 p.m., Barbados vs Aruba, Dominica vs St. Martin, 9:30 p.m., Bahamas vs British Virgin Islands, 10 p.m., United States vs Paraguay, November 15th 11 p.m. UTC plus or minus 0, Guyana vs Bonaire, St. Martin vs Belize, St. Vincent and the Grenadines vs St. Lucia, November 16th 12 a.m., Cayman Islands vs Anguilla, Colombia vs New Zealand, Martinique vs Cuba, November 16th 1 a.m., Mexico vs Uruguay, November 17th 2 p.m. Chad vs Mozambique, 3 p.m., Egypt vs Algeria, 4 p.m., Comoros vs Namibia, 5 p.m., Finland vs Andorra, November 18th 7:15 p.m., Japan time UTC 9, Japan vs Bolivia, South Korea vs Ghana, 11 a.m. UTC plus or minus 0, Benin vs Burkina Faso, Jordan vs Mali, Venezuela vs Canada, 2 p.m. UTC plus or minus 0, Lesotho vs Malawi, 3 p.m., Kenya vs Senegal, Oman vs Ivory Coast, Saudi Arabia vs Algeria, November 18th 5 p.m., Chile vs Peru, Cyprus vs Estonia, Faroe Islands vs Kazakhstan, 7 p.m., Morocco vs Uganda, 7:30 p.m., Brazil vs Tunisia, 9 p.m., St. Kitts and Nevis vs Belize, November 18th 11 p.m., Antigua and Barbuda vs Guyana, 11:30 p.m., Dominican Republic vs Martinique, November 19th 12 a.m., United States vs Uruguay, 12:30 a.m., Mexico vs Paraguay, 1 a.m., Colombia vs Australia, 1:30 a.m., Ecuador vs New Zealand,